Hello, welcome to the Low-Code Campfire. This is episode number 211 for Friday, September 12, 2025. Today we have some submitted topics, so I'm calling this entity permissions, blocking listings, and more, but we'll talk about whatever it is that you want to talk about. I am Dale Warner, Head of Support for Plant an App. This is an event that we do every Friday, 10 a.m. Central Time, where we get together and talk about what's going on with our Plant an App setups and maybe get some ideas about how to do things better or pitfalls to avoid. We record all the episodes, put them on YouTube, so you can get there, youtube.com/plantanap. If you're watching this in replay, you probably found us. But do subscribe. We do this agenda week by week. We say hello because we're a friendly group, and then we go around the campfire. We do first call, anything that got submitted, and then we talk about some of the other contributions to our community website and different topics until we get to about an hour in. That's when we turn the recording off, go into afterglow, and enjoy each other for a few more minutes offline. So please do jump in and engage with us. You can submit questions and topics in advance. Those are, if you send it to support@plantanap.com, I will get that and perhaps do a little bit of research, but if nothing else, put it on the agenda for us to talk about here. So with that, I'll say hello.
Morning.
Hello there.
Morning.
Good morning, one and all. So we did have two things that were submitted, at least one by one of you that are here, so we'll get right into that. But first, is there anybody that wants to do a real first call?
Not I.
All right. Well, here we go. Um, so Don, this is your question, and
Yes.
um, I've summarized it a little bit here, but the maybe we go right to the challenge. You're getting data in from an outside source. You're displaying data in real time, so you're trying to figure out what do I do while the system is updating tables and maybe keep imperfect data from or not yet completely updated data from being shown. And yeah, so that's kind of the my overarching understanding of it. Do you want to provide any more details and maybe what you've done so far?
Sure. I haven't really done anything except working with the data source company as to how they're going to give me data. I don't yet know if I'm going to have one table or multiple tables. So I'm not positive exactly what the level of SQL calls, a number of SQL calls, et cetera, that might happen, the number of updates that might happen as the data is coming in. I'm also not positive how I'm going to do this. I'm thinking they give me this data. I think they're going to just hand me a JSON string. I'm thinking that what I might very well do is just drop it into a table for later processing and say thank you. So that's the API call basically that they're going to call. Then I'm going to at some point process this. Um, I need to do some accumulations, some updates to some tables, and then the data will be updated. Meanwhile, this is there's two different views. There's some tabular views on some screens that are tabular views and some screens that are uh, Google Map views, geographical views. So if you can imagine, if I was counting the number of vote by mail applications in a precinct of a county, I would have a county map on the screen with all of the precinct boundaries drawn. And then on top of that, a number. And that number in each of the counties would be the number of vote by mail people that are in that precinct. So that's the view that people are going to see. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to be sure that when the next person comes to the page that's going to show the Google map, that I don't go into a record that's, or a series of records that are in the process of being updated. I would rather, I'd rather wait until I know that the records are um, whole, that there's no halfway in updating the information, and then display it. So that's my challenge.
So I had given some preliminary information, but as I hear the the problem that described, I'm thinking of maybe you always find a better way, right? If you think about it longer.
Mhm.
And just at a high level, what I wonder would be if you if the result of all your processing created a result set, and let's say it creates result set one, if your display information, if your display, whatever the UI is, displayed result set one, it could reliably know that that's a completed set. In the background, you're generating result set two, and when that's complete, you shift the view to the most complete result set.
Hmm. Okay.
So
Meaning
kind of
that
disconnecting the UI from the raw data is kind of
got it. And the intent there is that the shift in result views, the pointer going to which result view is live, is an extremely fast event, and not to worry. That's the idea there.
um,
So the if I understand what you mean by between result view one and two, if the next person asking for that page comes in, um, I would say show them the currently live result view, result set. Um,
yeah. And so for example, from a SQL perspective, that could be that you're querying for the highest one ID of your result set table, and that's the one that you show, right?
oh, I see.
You wouldn't even have to move a pointer. You could just when one is completely uh, let's say that you have a report table that has an ID and a status. So complete, incomplete. You could look for the top the highest ID that has a complete status, and that's the one that you show.
Oh, okay. That is interesting. Yeah. So, again, pardon the ignorance of the timing of such and the indivisibility, I guess is the word. The fact that a, an- a record is being written into that table, the result view table, um, is indivisible. And so it would be written, and even if I'm writing it while somebody is asking for it, SQL will deal with the collision.
Um, well, in what I was just suggesting, the idea would be you could take however many steps necessary to write the record, whether that's one write or many, but the final thing that you do would be to change the status from in progress to complete. And at that point, the next SQL query that runs saying I'm looking for a my most recent complete record would return that one. Prior to that, it
Gotcha.
would return
I
the
gotcha.
previous one.
And so, right. And so the update, if it's an update call, for instance, a SQL update of the record to update the status, that's indivisible from the person coming in and asking for uh, uh, the the latest record.
Right.
So yeah, that could, yeah. I was thinking switching back and forth and trying to be conservative, but you're saying just dump a new record out there, and the highest numbered record is the one that it would SQL would grab, and so it would only be until that new record is there that I have to worry about it. Everybody else is getting the previous record when they're asking for the display.
Right. But this is I'm just kicking out ideas. I don't know if anybody else has done something similar and um,
I
or have a
was
different
thinking
take on it.
about a loop of some kind of thing, like a wait a second or something. I'm sure it's going to be a fast process, and that's one of the questions that I have. Am I worrying about nothing? I know it's going to be a relatively fast process to calculate these things. It's not like millions of data points that I'm trying to do. It's several hundred. I don't know how many precincts there are in the county, but there are probably 100. So I just have to run through some numbers to update either 100 records or one table with a bunch of fields, or it's not going to be a huge amount of data, and therefore am I worrying about nothing?
Yep. In the meantime, some of the other, um, is this going to be a high demand, um, a large number of people looking at the data, where you're concerned about performance?
Um, I don't know, hundreds. I'm actually thinking general, because if this particular county likes this, then maybe other counties would like it. And if
Hmm.
this county with a small size likes it, some county with a very large size, just imagine a little tiny county in southern Illinois wants this, and then, oh, Cook County wants this too. Well,
Yeah.
boom, got a
Changes
problem.
the dynamic. Yeah.
Changes the dynamic, exactly. So I'm just trying to think, best in class solution, got the right
What?
set of tools. Maybe I can give this to somebody larger and it'll still work.
So I was just going to point out we've talked, on other weeks about performance kinds of things. So taking advantage of caching, for example, filling the if your display is taking advantage of cached data, then it might be more uh, performant if you're having a lot of people's watching over vote results, for example. I mean, that sounds to me like you're doing something that's a little bit more static, and maybe it won't be election
Right.
night
This is
kind of thing.
right.
But
This
if you
is
were
not.
doing an election night kind of thing and you had hundreds and thousands of hits, you might want to take advantage of caching.
Yeah, my size of company, I don't want the liability of taking care of election results. No, no, this is not as demanding. It's not as so many people will be looking at the data so often. Um, so no, that's not an issue. But I was thinking of just putting a SQL record out there, or for that matter, I suppose even a token out there that one process uh, would set, and it would be just the good old, I don't even know. I'm sure some of you remember the P and V keys of early programming, the prevent and basically stop and go. If the p value is set, then you wait and wait for the v value to continue on, to lock, the
Hmm.
synchronization. And so I was thinking of something simple like that, where my process that's going to update things would set a value, and then when it's done, it would set the value from, basically from P to V. Then the graphic value would start by saying, okay, is the uh, is the is the value V? If not, wait and come back, and wait and loop, and then it's going to be fast, so just not stepping on anybody's toes. So I would do it perhaps that way. Is that what mechanism do we have any built-in things, or has anyone had an issue of or wondering how to uh, synchronize processes?
I don't think there's a I don't think there's a built-in mechanism to do what you're talking about.
Right.
But I'm going to go back to one of my oldies and favorites that you'll probably recognize. Um, just to illustrate what I was talking about a little while ago. We've got a listing of books here,
Hmm.
and yeah, so and they're created in order by ID. So this the top one mechanism is going to give you one record from the table. If you order it by ID descending, then you're going to get the last record in the table because and you could do it by date too if you wanted to. So if you can imagine, if this was your report layer and you look for the top one, um, and then I missed some of the other. Um, if we had a status field here, I don't think I do. Um, but if you had a status field, something like that, um, you're just going to get the last record that is um, that is complete. And so long you're in control of when you flip the status to complete, so you don't have to worry about timing of anything else. You as long as you build a most recent record, SQL is gonna this would be the basis of your query.
Got it. That probably is a satisfactory way to deal with it.
And since we've been talking, I see Ben has joined us, and he's done this like 1,000 times. So one of these he might have a comment for you at some point as well. I don't mean to put anybody on the spot, but there's that experience thing that comes in.
Right.
Since I was called out. Um, I did come in late, so forgive me if I'm not fully up to speed. But basically, you're just basically trying to check if something is in the process of doing something and not do it again and wait for it to finish, correct?
Yeah.
Gist of it. Yeah, so I believe, what was already mentioned is in some cases like what I do is I just have a simple field in a table. I I basically have a table specifically for lists where I can put any combination of information I want in there. Um, but for let's say a particular report, I have a text field that's the report name, and then the value is true or false on whether the report is currently running. And when I start the run, I set it to true. When I'm done, I set it to false. The next time it runs, if it sees that that value is true, it means it's still currently running. Skip over. Don't do it. And then, that's just basically what it does. And then as soon as it finishes and it goes back to false, the next time it runs, it sees it's not running. So then it goes. I will say the only caveat or issue with that is that if, let's say, in between your true false stamps, the process fails, you'll never get the false stamp. So it'll look like it's perpetually running. So what I've done in that case is I also have a backup, a automation that runs every X number of minutes, and it checks to see if any of those particular values have been set that way for more than X amount of time. In which case, I know it's impossible for something to, let's say, run for 20 minutes. Then I'll say, if in 20 minutes this is still set to true, flip it to false, because I know that means it failed, and that way the next time it runs, it's good to go.
That's a
Hope
good
that
one. I
helped.
like that. Yeah. You mentioned that if you in the normal workings that you check if it's still running, and if it is, skip it. But do you have a situation where you have to wait for it to be finished to do what your process wants to do rather than skip it? So a wait loop, is that something that you would use?
Yeah, well, it could be it depends on the scoping and where you're running what needs to be run. If you're running, for example, a SQL query, the SQL query is not going to return until it's finished. So you don't have to really do anything. You just, as soon as the query finishes, it'll do the next thing in the action stack. Now, if you're talking about throwing something into a background thread, so that it's basically multi-threaded, then yeah, you basically would set up a loop where, let's say, every 10 seconds it would loop and it would check that value. If that value isn't cleared, loop, put a wait for 10 seconds, let the loop keep going, and as soon as you get the value saying that it's cleared, you break out of that loop and then you can continue on with whatever you're doing.
Got it. Yeah, that's good. Thanks very much.
Very good. So, yeah, keep us surprised how you end up solving that and whether and how that turns out. Um, Mark had submitted one in advance, and I don't know that I know the answer, so maybe we can sort this out. But there was this question of using the create new entity name action, whatever your entity is, and um, there's a conflict between the field isn't marked required, but it's failing. And so I think I responded back. I don't know if the question is, do you have more details on what's going on with that, Mark?
Thanks for addressing it. I tried to build something just now while you guys were talking, and of course it didn't fail. So I can't show it, but I know that this has happened multiple occasions for me where I'm just trying to enter a record and it fails, and it says there's no could not get a value for a property. And I don't know why it does that. It's a little bit aggravating. It slows me down. I think, why does it even need that value? It doesn't, it's not set as required. So,
So so first illustrating, create new book. I'm stuck on books today. So it doesn't matter what the entity is, but it shows you all the properties. You got to fill in the blanks. If things are required, then it's going to enforce that. And if if cover image was required, for example, and you didn't provide anything, or the token resolved to blank, then the action is going to fail, and you don't get a new book. Um, so a couple of things that I know can come up, but it really is the question is what is the error that you're getting back? The kinds of things that can come up is if the user doesn't have the rights to create a new book, you or one of the maybe a related entity might end up preventing it from writing too. I don't know, but permissions can come into play. Bad values. So if you're trying to set a date time and um, you're providing it something other than an ISO date, and so it chokes on that and stops the whole record from being written. But it really comes down to exactly the error. And I will also mention that um, I think some of the error messages that we've done in the past are cryptic. It's pointing to a problem, but it doesn't really tell you exactly what the problem is. So you might be thinking it's about required and it's really about permissions. I don't know. Um, we are working on improving the message, not only the message that you get, but also more information about the call stack, how it got there, so that you can understand um, where it's coming from, and that sometimes is the clue too. But um, yeah, I think it I think it's probably a little bit more complex than it's just not providing value for a required field. It's probably pointing to some other problem in the create.
yeah, I'm
So,
sorry. I don't have a solid example. I tried to
yep,
throw one together. Yep.
yep.
Maybe next time.
All
So,
right. Well, I'll tell you what, if you get a hard failure, those are always the ones that are easier to figure out. Um, and whether you find it and tell us what you were encountering next time, or if you have a one that you don't sort out, we'll be happy to look at it.
very good. Thanks.
Absolutely. All right, we're back to first call before I go on to um, whatever prepared topics I might have. Anybody have something you want to talk about? Okay, here we go. When you have your in tokens, does anybody you get a lot of freedom as to what names to pick when you create the namespace. So, for example, you can say, you want to create a name, and so I'm asking if anybody has ever done this. Do you have a system namespace? I know we're talking to
No, that sounds like a scary word to use.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Something like that, I'm like, I would never use that
yeah,
only because that's like reserved word territory.
Yeah.
yeah.
Reserved word territory.
I often start with SWI something for Sprocket Websites Inc. to be sure it's not somebody else's.
Yeah,
Mhm.
We
that's
have a
actually
name. We have a namespace that we use called USPA System Core, but
yeah,
yeah,
which would not conflict.
right.
As long as the product has been out, I feel like somebody somewhere has done that. And I just was trying to get a sense of how pervasive it might be. Sounds like it's not going to be pervasive, but um, uh, it has not previously been a reserved word. We're looking at making it a reserved word, and trying to figure out what happens to anybody who happened to have used it in the past. Bogdan has a plan, of course, so uh, I think it's not going to be a problem. I was just looking to see if what we're going to do with that.
Use
And
sys instead.
related question related question on that. Have you ever changed where Plantain app starts besides the page name configuration?
Has it been done? Lots of people do that. It's
Mhm.
not
Oh,
recommended, but
I okay. I have never tried it since. I've always, again, with somebody uses the names, I guess I got to stick with that. But a long time ago, I went and did it, and things blew up, and learned that
yep.
it needs to be configuration. So it's changed. It's whatever we wanted now.
Well, we recommend it to be configuration and just hide it, but not
You you're
it
talking
it
about the
will.
main config page of Plantain app?
The
That
DNN
area?
page name. Yes, that right.
I will be honest, since the inception of Plantain app, I've never called it configuration. For me, it's always been PAA config, and I've never had an issue.
And it can be put elsewhere. It doesn't have to be at the root, but I think historically we had some migration scripts that blew up with we had some developers that assumed that it was called configuration, and then the scripts that they wrote uh, ended up not working for some people. So I believe that. I mean, I know a lot of you don't do it at the root level, and I believe it will uh, work just fine at this point.
Ah,
But
okay.
if you want to stick
Once
with our
bitten, twice
standard,
shy.
yeah,
I don't do it.
yeah, I get it. Um, so I'm sure you'll hear more about this as we get into the next version, but the reason that we're asking about this, um, these things, these custom, um, let's see, when you add one, what does it say? It's create a new namespace. So these are all have always been token namespaces, right? The left part of the token, like we have book one, and so this left part is called the namespace, um, and then and that's been around as long as the tokens product, which predates Plantain app. And then in our other areas, for example, in workflows, we have the namespace here as well. And this is a separate one. So we're getting into, and will probably happen during version 128, the combining of so instead of it being separate lists of namespaces, they'll be working from one list of namespaces. And so part of that is that we have a system namespace in workflows and APIs. And so now that we're working from a singular list of, or when we work from a singular list of namespaces, then system will actually become a reserved namespace that you won't see. So that's what we're trying to establish. I was working on, let's see if I can find, oh, I no longer have an example. I think we've talked before. Now I'm just on tokens in general because this is an area where we're working. Do any of you have the red flags that show up here that say we're getting rid of portal specific namespaces? We've touched on this before, but the idea is that the old tokens product, the historical tokens product, had the ability you could install tokens on one portal and another portal, and that the tokens were not global to your site. They were you define tokens particularly for a site and not for the installation overall. So that's the old way. The Plant and App way is there is only one area of tokens. It's running on your instance of Plant and App and good for all sites. So that's this when we look at, for example, when you're editing a namespace, it used to be a switch down here that says it's good for, is this a portal specific or is it global? And we've got rid of the switch. We're assuming everything's going to be global. And so we're left with, there's a few people who, or if you've used the historical product and you have portal specific namespaces, we're trying to flag them, let you know that they're happening and help you resolve them. So does anybody find themselves in that spot or have questions about what I was just talking about? Overall, what we're doing in this is that if you, and this is coming up in new releases, I think in 127, but if you are in this circumstance, and so you have for example, a namespace called XYZ in another site, that it would be warning you here that it's a portal specific. Now we're going to migrate that automatically to a global namespace so long as there's no conflicts. If there's only one XYZ namespace, it will just turn into a global one, problem solved. It won't break anything for anybody. It just makes makes the tokens generally available, but throughout the site, but won't break anything on a particular site. If you have duplicates, where if you have an XYZ namespace for different portals, then it's going to require some manual work to resolve.
Now, I just went to our configuration page on Planet Marketing to check my tokens to see if I saw anything. And I now get a new screen saying missing dependencies, and I can't do anything but install them.
Yo, I'm not the only one.
No, you're not. So great time to talk about this, Dennis.
I didn't want to mention it, but since you did.
Yeah, so you're not the only one. This is what I term a major incident. It's something that it's not going to blow you up, but it is something that we really wish hadn't happened. So there is, I mean, the short version is that there is a mechanism in Plant and App that forces you to or tries to force you to install updates, and we try never to use it. And yet somehow, and this was part of the conversation here. Let's see if it's fixed. Nope. Um, the somehow we have managed to trigger this accidentally or without intention. So something went wrong. I think it was I think it relates to well, I don't know. I won't speculate. So you're seeing that screen in error. We're working right now to resolve it. And what should happen is it will go away. That as soon as we have it fixed, it's a data problem, right? We're telling you you need this update, and yet it's not really true. So that's uh, it's a mistake on our side, and it will go away. That's the short answer.
Okay. Well, I don't know if I have any namespaces or not.
Yeah. The the slightly longer answer to that is that this mechanism, missing dependencies. I've got one going on here. Let me bring it up. Um, so I think right now it's only impacting one that I know of 126 systems. Do you know if yours is a 126, Dennis? Ah, it looks like
Yes,
maybe
mine is a 126.
tried. It looks like they may have solved this because I was expecting to get it. Try doing a
I just got through.
server. I'm sorry.
It's fixed. It's
Good.
fixed.
Good.
It literally like 2 minutes ago was not. So they must have literally just did it because I just refreshed the page and now I could get through again.
Good. Yes, they were actively working on it. I think that let's see if I don't know if I want to show this until I read it. So let me see what we got. Nope, it hasn't. I have no additional information yet. But yeah, um, so now about the missing dependencies mechanism. Let's see. I have a picture here. I'm sorry
I
for.
did get to it.
Good. All right, good. Um, all right, I just want to make sure. This is the screen that we're talking about, where you go to configuration and you see
Right.
missing dependencies and install dependencies. Um, so the intention of this mechanism is that um, we always want you to be in control of when to install things on your Plantain app. And in the normal course of activity that we publish updates. They say recommended or critical, and you get to decide. But there is the built-in mechanism that if it's a critical update that must be installed, perhaps for example, in the instance of a some big incident, let's say um, that it was a severe security issue. We have the ability to say to turn on this missing dependencies mechanism that says all these updates have to be installed before you continue. That missing dependency screen blocks. You're still in control, right? You can choose not to install them, but you can't get to any Plantain app features until you do. So it's a good mechanism that we try to never use, but it's happened a couple of times that we needed to use it, and then somebody did something. We're going to find out who and why and beat them severely. But yeah, we managed to trigger that mechanism this morning. So I will report back on what that was. Next thing, any of you here have a custom extension that got developed for you or that you developed a custom extension? So like an action, your own action that can bolt on to Plantain app? If you those of you who've been following along, I've done it once.
Did was the push notification one that y'all did
Yeah,
for us?
ones that I think the one that we did, ones that we do are going to be covered. But if you had, so that's if you the cusp that one is going to be fine. And really,
Okay.
all are, I mean, it's going to be fine. But if you just again, if you're following along, Blanton app is made to be extended, and so we have however many hundreds of actions that are built in, but you can write your own. And I did an example of this a couple of years ago. I did one that is about revealing your context. Yeah, I did this one here. So it's you um, if you were to use it, first of all, there's no reason to have this one anymore. You shouldn't install this one because it's now part of the product. So this is just kind of here historically. But you can write your own action that has its own setup and do whatever you need to do behind the scenes. And so being able to have a pro code developer build something that you as a low-code developer can consume. You fill in some blanks and it does the work. So anyway, apparently we're going to make some changes in 128 as to how to call the underlying, how to integrate with our code, how this
I believe, Dale, that Jerry just wrote a couple of custom uh, actions for the Join 47 project just this past week.
Well, give him a heads up and let's. Um, this is something that will be in the form of a breaking change in 128, meaning you're going to have to do something before you. If you have one of those, have actions that you've developed, you'll have to have your code available and make a couple of changes and recompile in order for the DLLs to be continue to be compatible. But it's a very controllable thing. It's just I'm giving you the early heads up that um, action developers, extension developers have some work to do when you go to 128. 128 is months away, so don't nothing to panic over. A little news since last time. Let me we in the area of documentation. And in the area of changing things. So we've previously talked about that in 128, there used to be two or three different ways to get tokens to appear within your pages, and so if you've previously modified your themes, there were ways to get that to happen. Now there's a new way, and it's going to be the only way starting in version 128. And so we had given you the heads up that when you go to 128, you'll have to make these changes. But since then, here's the number right here. We've made it now where it's this new method is available in version 127. So once you're in version 127, you can make these changes and be ready for 128. So if you've done this thing, highly recommend that after you get to version 127.4.18 that you make the changes and then you won't have to worry about when you migrate. Just a reminder, if you don't make the changes, it's not a system crashing deal, but rather any page where you have it and you haven't made the changes, you're going to start to see red error messages and realize that you've got a very little bit of work to do to get it working again. The other change to documentation, I try to do a little something every week to get our documentation up to date. We have an explanation of the configuration page and what all the different things are. So kind of a big overview if you haven't if you're not familiar with the product, what's where. And then um, we have a new thing coming out. Let's see, if you're on version 127, there's the Knowledge AI Assistant. This is a um, item that shows up in the lower right-hand corner where you can ask our AI questions about Plant an App. And so, yeah, just wanted to put in here what that is and how to use it. So that's there. Um, yeah, and so I think,
Dale, where in the product is that?
well, let's take a look. It's on the Plant an App pages, so the configuration pages if you're using our standard terminology. Uh, and it may be license dependent, which I'm gonna reactivate my site on a license that is likely to have it. Um, and of course, I can't show it to you. Uh, try at this. Aha, now we have it. So it's this thing down here. And so it's available on certain license types. You click it and say, ask some kind of a Plant an App question, and or Bazinga AI behind the scenes will give you a response. So it's dependent on license type and your subscription, but uh, if you want that, open a conversation with us. We'll try to figure out whether your license covers that, and I don't know, the delta. We can figure out how to make it work.
Okay,
If you're,
thanks, Dale.
I think if you're on a runtime license as a professional developer, so I think, for example, Dennis and Jerry, the site that you have that we're that you're working out, when we activate it is activated correctly, you'll have that available to you. Trying to bring answers closer to you.
Okay,
What
thanks,
else?
Dale.
Sure. All right. I think that's all I had prepared today. So we're back to,
Now,
yes, sir.
to follow up on that ticket I put in about the currency
Yeah.
action, um, I didn't quite understand. Are y'all planning on adding the read-only back to that as one of the properties of that
No.
currency action?
Nope.
You're
We
not.
we eliminated the so the old and I this is worth talking about, I think, a little bit. There was a uh, let's look at this a little bit. Um, So from time to time, we come up with there's pieces of our product that we start calling obsolete, and then we typically have a replacement for it. And so Dennis had encountered, we had a field type called currency. And at the time, so many versions ago, when you did currency, you got uh, an item that looks a little bit different than this. At some point, we started calling it currency obsolete, and we added this new one in. And so um, at some point the obsolete one was actually uh, removed, or you were forced to move to the new one if you wanted to move it. And so uh, during the ideal would be during that time when one was marked obsolete and the new one was available, that you could convert. And um, it, for example, you can, on a field change, you can come in and choose the new, whatever the new type is, and these parameters of the action of the field type would change to the new one, and you would ideally test it and then adapt to it, and then um, you're good to go. But that's the pattern, that we have something obsolete, something new, and um, if it's different, then you have to do the work of migrating to the new one, getting away from the obsolete one. So in Dennis's case, there in the old in the obsolete one, there was a property called read only, and there was really about 9 different check marks that um, you could make choices about how the currency field, how you wanted it to work. One of them was read only, and we no longer have a read-only property. So when he changed from one currency, from the old obsolete version to the new version, read-only wasn't there, and so the item was no longer read-only, which, if you're accepting orders and this was the total amount of the order, um, that's kind of a problem, because now instead of it being read-only, it's the user can type their own amount into the order, so that's not ideal. Um, the the fix for that is enable conditionally, which is available on all of our actions, has the ability, if you say that an item is not enabled by saying false, that's the same impact. So now that was the introduction. Dennis, to your question, we're not putting it back because you can do it here. Read only no longer exists as a currency field, currency property. You'll have to change.
Okay. Um, then I guess if you're just using a text box instead of the currency field, then to prevent, well, let me see how I want to word this. So, obviously we don't want people changing the order total. So I can see, okay, you want to keep them from doing that, you put the condition as false. Or you could use a text box and mark it as read only, but then you would have to, if you want it to look proper, you'd have to reformat your field to include the decimal and the 2 zeros.
Right. On the text field, you're responsible on your own.
Yeah,
I didn't recall that there was a read-only property of a text box. So let's see how
right.
this appears. So you read-only ends up making it visible, but and let me put something in here. Let's put a 5 in here. Initial value. This is a 5. So activating read only makes it show a 5. You can click on it and copy and paste, for example, but you can't um, you can't change it on typing, and it won't change. The read-only did that. So, you know, my recommendation for you, if you want it to nicely format, rather than going to the effort of putting a $sign in front of the value
Yeah.
and zeros and whatever, that you go back to the currency field and just say false, and it will
Okay. All right. I've
do
got a bunch of forms I'm gonna have to go change.
Yep. Um, so thinking about this, so now I'm on to the next topic. If you're ready to move on.
Yeah, I'm fine. That was just curious.
So the fact that a text box has a read-only property versus as well as this, to me, this is identical to saying enable conditionally false. I'm trying to figure out why we even have this property in a text box. Anybody know? Feels like something that should be
Yes,
removed,
because
except
if you disable it, it still looks white. If you click it as read only, it turns gray.
all right. So
If I remember correctly, I think that's one of the
That
things.
is correct.
Yep, that's right. And it's good to have the option.
if I have a read only, okay, let's clone this. So this one is text read only. It has a value and the read only box, and this one is disabled that way. At this point, they seem to render the same.
Is that due to the skin or is that new behavior? Because I know that was the behavior previously, but I don't use your built-in skin.
Well, let's go wander over to Exilion. If I have it's a Bootstrap 5 thing, so that could be. It still might not render right. I don't know.
That's when I noticed I was forced to change that field is when we changed from Bootstrap 3 to Bootstrap 5.
Yeah, I don't. Where's my tab? It still seems to render gray, so I don't think it's necessarily coming from the skin.
Are, are the properties different on the fields? So the attributes that, because that would indicate whether or not, like if there's a different class or something like that. So that has a
Says read only, and then this one says disabled. Disable equals disabled. I'm sure there's a difference, but I don't know what. It seems to render the same way at the moment. Anyway, we I have no information. That was just something that I noticed as we were talking about it here. I have no information that we're going to make any changes in that area.
So Dale,
Read.
I
Yeah.
went looking to help you out too. I'm looking at a form that does act differently depending on read-only or enabled being false.
Okay.
And it is just like Ben said,
Oh,
and
I, s- I did it on a sample. Sorry not to cut you off, and I could show it to you if you want.
go ahead.
Go ahead.
Absolutely. And I
If you
do
want
see
to.
there is a different behavior that if I click on this one, I get a highlight. If I click on this one, I don't. So there is a slight characteristic difference.
Yeah,
But yeah,
for me the coloring is different and also the hover is different. A disabled as opposed to a read only is a lighter gray. The read only is a darker gray. So visually, the lighter gray, depending on, colorblind people or whatever, they may not see it. The other thing is that on the read only, when you hover over, you get the big fat circle with the slash through it saying like no, not allowed. But on a disabled, you still have the regular arrow.
okay, so that sounds CSS difference.
At least for me, that's what I see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah, I
agree.
think it is. Yeah, it's
So it
tied
does
to
give
the
you
theme.
some additional capabilities. The currency one, we removed it. We have, like I say, there's no discussion that I'm aware of to remove it from text. So don't feel like you have a change coming there. But for currency, it got lost or removed. I don't want to say lost. It was sure intentionally removed. Nice. All right, with that controversy, we managed to make it to the top of the hour. So I will say thank you for joining us for this one. We'll do it again in 1 week. And if you have a minute, hang around for Afterglow. Thanks, everyone.